Good evening, guys. How's everybody today? Hope you're doing well. What am I doing? I come here to talk about a friend. A real amazing friend. But as I told you before, I was in England in the green clothes. But I wanted to move to America to travel. So I went over to America and traveled for 16 months, wandering around America and Canada. Just wandering around. When I finished, I thought, where am I going to settle down? Do I go back to England or do I settle down in America? So, my mom had a friend in Oxford, North Carolina. So I went back, and it's, it's quite a cool place. It has its issues. There's a lot of racial stuff going on between, I don't know why, but it is. But hold that thought and I'll come back to it. In fact, I'll address it now. When I was a young guy, I lived in New Jersey for about 4 years, and there was black people there, and I hung out more with the black people than I did with the white people because I played basketball. Loved basketball. So I'd go in the basketball court after school and play until it was dark. And then go home. Next day, next day, next day. Just play basketball all the time. So there were some racial problems at school, and I'm like, I didn't know what to do because I didn't have any problems with anybody. And white guys would say to me, you have to pick which side you're on. I'm like, I have no side. For some reason, I've never ever cared about what color people's skin is. Don't care. What's really cool is if you know anything about Brazil, they have a multicultural country, and nobody cares about what color you are. It's only in America and the Western Europe that people care. The rest of the world don't really care. Actually, in Asia, if you're a darker skin, in Thailand, everybody wants to have light skin. I don't understand it. White people want brown skin and brown people want light skin. Crazy. Anyway, what's my point of talking about this? Well, when I was in Oxford, North Carolina, I met a guy. Back then I went to church and I met this guy at church. His name was Pops. P-O-P-S. Pops. His actual real name was Charles Dunton. Well, he passed away. Very sad. He passed away last month in December. I'm not gonna get all excited about anything. I mean, I left there and we didn't keep in contact, but when I heard about it, I got upset, sad. Why? Because I would say that he was the most unique individual I ever met in my whole life. His mom was Mexican and his father was black. He was a little bit on the, for me anyway, a little bit on the shorter side. He had long white hair past his shoulder, and he had a beard that was just as long, right down in the middle of his chest. He had a Harley Davidson, and he was just he didn't even know what the word hate meant. He didn't know what prejudice meant. He loved everybody. And I tell you what, he had a hug and a handshake that would crush you straight up. I did tug of war for a few years, and your hands, your forearms and everything get super strong. But I'm not the kind of guy that tries to impose anything, but I'm not saying Pops did neither, but he was just naturally strong in his arms. And if he hugged you, even if he only come to like halfway up my chest, but if he hugged you, you knew it. And if he shook your hand, you knew it. But one of the most, I've said before about, I don't think I belong on this planet. The planet I come from is there's more love, less conflict, more compassion. It just seems to me, I can talk about this for an hour, about why I think I don't belong here. But when I met Pops, it was like I met somebody from the place I live. He's just amazing guy. You know, I had a motorcycle license in England, but I didn't have one in America, and I wanted to get a motorcycle license. So he had a Harley Davidson 1400cc bike. So it was like semi-chopped, and he said, you can use my bike to take your test. That's fine, but you can't do the bollard, you know, the chicane sort of thing on it. It's just too big. I rode it in the parking lot, a closed down Walmart parking lot, and fast and strong, but no problem driving it. It's just you can't do the chicane thing with it. It's too big. So I paid for a course, and a weekend course. It's like a safety test and all that sort of stuff. I'm glad I did it in the end. It was like not difficult at all. You know, I used to teach driving, so how can it be difficult? But it was fun, and I actually helped the instructor teaching other people and helping other people, so it was fun. But Pops offered me to use his bike, and he had his son. His name is Carlos, and one of the nicest guys in the world. I would say, we used to say that we were brothers, really. And he was so his father was African American Spanish, and his mother was African American, Vi, another beautiful woman. Whole family is amazing. Her sister had I met her sisters. They were beautiful people, and you know, as far as real church people are concerned, loving, kind, gentle, beautiful. One of her sisters had a health issue, a really funny disease, but before she got the disease, she was a beautiful person, and she passed. Very sad. But I want to just say about the whole family, amazing. You know, Carlos, you know, he'd come to my house. I'd be working in the garden, and you could hear this chopper coming down the driveway. I'm like, who's this? And he'd get off the bike. His son Carlos, he had the beard and the hair too. He had the chopped sort of the helmet, the small helmet. He goes, "Hey, Limey, what you doing?" I say, "Come on, will you?" So I take him in the house, sit and have some tea or something with him, talk. And he loved to talk about Air Force. But let's get back to Pops. I could talk about the Dunton family all day long. The Dunton family were like the family I never had. Amazing, beautiful people. But Pops was born in California, and he told me all these stories many times, and I listened to them because they were fascinating. He was born into a family that had nothing. I mean, literally nothing. He used to run around the streets stealing food so he could eat. Not to take home to sell or anything, so he could eat, to stay alive. Really bad, holes in the wall, all kinds, really poor. But he said he joined. I didn't know this. I got his eulogy here, and got sent to me. I didn't know this. He did 2 years in the National Guard, and then he joined the regular army and did 27 years in the regular army. Yeah, he went all the way up to Master Sergeant. That's way up there. You know, in the British, they don't. I think it's like 7 ranks, about 4 or 5 ranks anyway. But in the American Army, because it's so much bigger, they have more ranks, more people to look after, and so on. But I got all the way to warrant officer, and he got to Master Sergeant. But actually, he had more promotions. But technically, my rank was higher. But you know, I didn't. We just teased each other all the time about that. But he went to Vietnam. And he passed at 81, so he was 19 years older than me. I'm kind of like a father figure, but just an amazing friend. He went to Vietnam, I think, 3 times, 2 or 3 times. But he told me this story about he was in a firefight. Pops went to Vietnam. They got in a firefight. He got shot up. I can't remember how many times he said he was shot. Between 3 and 7 times. He got shot in the jaw. It broke his jaw, and you know, they were fighting the Vietnamese, and the position got overrun, and his own people thought he was dead. So they picked up the people who were still alive and injured, and got out of there before they were overrun. And Pops was left because they thought he was dead. They came back the next day when it was all done, and to pick the dead up, and he was still alive. So they took him to the hospital, and he lived, obviously, but he got a Purple Heart. Now I thought he told me he had a couple Purple Hearts, but I'm sure he said a couple Purple Hearts, but I can't remember now all the different stories. But reading the eulogy, he was a parachute instructor, jungle warfare instructor, and a ranger instructor, and all kinds of other instructors. So here's a guy coming from, South LA with not a penny to his name or anything in his life, and makes it to the top of his field. But what makes it even better than that is when he, to meet him when he retired, is such an amazing, beautiful person. He didn't have a bad word to say about anybody. I mean, he would walk up to groups of people who he didn't even know, like he was their best friend. And nobody ever said anything bad about him. And everybody knew Pops. His name was Charles Dunton, but people just Pops. Anytime you hear a Harley, you're looking around to see if it was Carlos and Pops driving by. And they're amazing. So I just wanted to share that story about Pops today. I've been thinking about it for a few days. Should I or shouldn't I? But this is about my channel, and it's about what I share with you guys. So, and I wanted to share that. So I want to give Pops a salute, one old soldier to another, and say, in the artillery you would say "Ubik." It means like wherever you go, be safe, sort of thing. Ubik. But like there's a bond between military guys about, you're prepared to put your life on the line for your country. And Pops was in the American Army, and I was in the British Army, but it's still respect. It was. I guess it was nothing to do with the military. It's more, for me, it was more of a respect of the guy's person. He's just an amazing, beautiful, kind, all the words just like that. He's just an amazing, amazing guy. So, and his wife Vi, beautiful, really gentle soul. I could sit and talk to her for hours and hours and hours about anything. And Pops. And I remember Carlos, the son, who was like, how old was Carlos? I think he's about 40 now, I guess. And but just an amazing guy. He could tinker with motorcycles and cars all day long, but he wasn't good at DIY. So he used to phone me up saying, "Kevin, can you come help me?" And I'd go around his house. He had a big old TV they bought and wanted to hang it on the wall and had no idea. So, how much are you gonna charge me? As a cup of tea for my brother. But beautiful, beautiful people. Pops is, I have to say, in my life, I can't think right off the top of my head. I can't think of another person like Pops. He's just a amazing man. So there's some more stuff in here about him that I was going to share with you, but I just wanted to share that, which is on my heart, and just say I know you're in a better place, and I know you'll be running around shaking everybody's hand and bear hugging everybody. And if there's a Harley in heaven, he'll be making noise up there, sure. So, to Pops. Okay, guys? Do you have a Pop story? Do you have somebody dear to you like that? I would say, out of all my family, Pops was probably the closest person that I could say was ever in my, if I had to say who was the closest person I'd consider family in my life, it would be Pops, for sure. 100% sure. I mean, we didn't go places together. We ate food together, we talked together, but whenever we seen each other, we'd stop and talk 15, 20 minutes. Doesn't matter what happened. Always. He'd been to my place, but I never went to his house. I've been to his son's house, Carlos. But, it's funny, because I go over into a black neighborhood, and people are looking, and then I go up to Carlos's house, and he come out and bear hug me, and I'd be like, who's this white dude? But I don't care about color of skin. It don't make any difference to me whatsoever. I think it's the stupidest thing. We all have skin. It's the biggest gland on the body. Some people have more pigmentation than others, and for that, you're gonna judge somebody because of their pigmentation? Whatever. I'll judge somebody if you don't share your cake. Huh? So, if you're pink, orange, or green, I love you anyway. So I'm gonna sign off, guys. Buckets of blessings. Rivers of peace, joy, and kindness. Look after yourselves and have a wonderful evening. See you in the morning. Good night.